Hello, my name is Wasim Ahmad. I'm Chief Crypto Officer of Vault12. And I'm very happy to be here with REIMAGINE.
Hello and welcome to REIMAGINE 2021. This is our 8th conference in a monthly series of events, bringing you nothing but the best projects, bright minds, and leaders in the space. We've been fortunate enough to invite many talented individuals and teams to come speak with us, providing updates, insights, and all the above that's happening in crypto. I'll be your host today, Adam, from the MouseBelt team, where we focus on early stage investments through our accelerator, providing development support to a number of growing projects, as well as education within the MouseBelt University program. Our main goals and objectives are pretty simple. It's increasing adoption, use cases, and real-world applications. So we seek to educate, our audience on blockchain by helping them understand crypto's real impact. Again, thank you all for tuning in to REIMAGINE 2021. We have an exciting interview for you today. I'm joined here with Wasim Ahmad, Chief Crypto Officer from Vault12. Thank you for taking your time out of your day to join us. How you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
So you guys, pretty interesting story with Vault12, and you guys have been around for quite some time. Before we get into kind of the products and solutions, which I think are critical to the space for a variety of reasons, right? Adoption, streamlining, like getting to the next billion. Let's talk about you. How did you end up first of all, how did you end up with the title? And then how did you end up kind of, what led you into blockchain?
Sure. So the title basically was something that we created to sound official when we were raising money through a security token offering in 2018. So it did the trick. So I've kept it.
Awesome. Yeah, and your background. Yeah, your background. Let us know what led you into blockchain.
So, 20 years ago, I was working in the cryptography area at a company called Voltage, which was a breakthrough in public key cryptography. And as you can imagine, cryptography is a central foundation of blockchain and everything that's going on around us. And after I left that company, I started working with a company called AlphaPoint, which at the time in 2012 was a very small group of entrepreneurs that were building the next generation of exchange software. Now, it wasn't legal to put those exchanges anywhere, certainly not in the US, but in many, many places around the world. But there were a couple of places in Northern Europe and the Caribbean. And so they implemented their exchange software for crypto specifically there. And then since then, AlphaPoint has just become a huge company that is pervasive in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space.
That's interesting. I haven't talked to a cryptographer on this show before, so let's kind of touch on that real quick. So,
I'm not a cryptographer. I'm not a cryptographer. But I work with cryptographers, so I know the world's leading cryptographers. That's my claim to fame.
And that's even better. I could probably understand a little bit more, But for those watching, blockchain, it's a buzzword. Blockchain, the fundamentals have been around for years. So like you said, cryptography, distributed systems. So like, what's your take on kind of this wave that, what blockchain is today? Have you seen this? What is blockchain, I guess, to you? Because you come from it, years past, like, from technologically speaking, why is blockchain all of a sudden hit in 2018?
So,
I'm sorry, in 2008 when Bitcoin launched, what's the story? What's your story?
Sure. So first of all, blockchain is marvelous, right? It's a foundation, and while it doesn't change, the stuff we do with blockchain or with the blockchain changes every 6 months. And you just think, what was going on? What was the hottest topic 6 months ago or 9 months ago? DeFi. And what's the hottest topic right now? NFTs. And what's the hottest topic, like a year or two ago? It was like supply chain, looking at supply chains, looking at tracking, looking at all of those kinds of things. So blockchain, I think, is going to continue. The applications for blockchain, like cryptocurrency, are going to continue to evolve. So I think it's something really fundamental. It's here to stay. Now, where did it come from? I think, Bitcoin specifically as the application kind of emerged from what we were seeing, in the world's kind of financial systems. So you had in 2008, you had kind of the crash, you had, Cyprus government taking everyone's money, ordering the banks to kind of withhold everyone's deposits. And suddenly people realized, wow, we're not immune to some sci-fi fantasy of, totalitarian governments controlling all of the money and taking it from people. And so that, I think, led to this idea that, well, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a way that eliminates the opportunity for fraud, for control, for, authoritarianism, all of those kinds of things. And that's what blockchain, and specifically Bitcoin in that time, kind of gives us. And then you fast forward a couple of years, and then we have a new type of cryptocurrency called Ethereum, which brings along this idea that you can program contracts, relationships between people, transactions that need to happen between multiple parties. And suddenly you can run these not on one particular server, but you can run it all around the world in a global way, in a distributed way. And no one government, no one corporation, no one entity controls it. And so this is really something great that is going to continue to keep giving new things, new applications that we haven't even thought of right now.
No, exactly. And you bring up some good points, and just kind of the evolution, and even kind of in my journey, I came across blockchain, Bitcoin in 2013, and went to grad school, and talked to some classmates about what's Ethereum right when it was coming out, and what's XRP and Coinbase. So it's kind of interesting, and those topics that you bring up that went on in the world, it's kind of eye-opening, and even recently in the last decade or so, just kind of the way that we operate, the globalization, right? Like the Cyprus situation, the stimulus packages. When I see all these things, and now that I'm in crypto, it kind of puts things in perspective in terms of like who's dialing this up. It's just people, and Bitcoin kind of gives you some financial freedom a little bit, or even blockchain in the application, Ethereum, right? Like running some of these new innovative processes and flows, and being part of the stack for a variety of reasons. So let's talk about Vault12, because you guys kind of solve a lot of the problems that, or solving a lot of the problems that we see from kind of the retail side, the institution side. So let's talk about Vault12 and kind of like what you guys are doing there.
Sure. So Vault12 was actually started in 2014 by our CEO, Max Skibinski. And Max at the time was at a venture company called Andreessen Horowitz. And in fact, he was on the blockchain team. So in the preceding years, he'd seen almost every major deal come by that was to do with Bitcoin, blockchain, all of those kinds of things, including Coinbase. So he actually worked on the Coinbase account and got them funded. So at that time, he realized talking to his peers, he realized very quickly that, great, this digital money is wonderful. It's the native currency of the internet. But there's one thing that is very, very different between that and the existing financial system, which is that because there's no banks, there's no FDIC, there's no one to give you your password back. You own the currency, and you own the security of that currency. And because there's no banks, you have to do all the work. And so it all boils down to protecting that key, which is often expressed in the form of a seed phrase. And so at that time, all of the solutions around protecting your seed phrase were very hardcore solutions. They involved doing stuff offline on laptops, and doing stuff with hardware wallets, pretty complicated processes. So he had this idea of, what if you did it a different way, did it in a decentralized way, and he couldn't get anyone to run with the idea. So he ended up starting a company just to run with that.
And maybe you can elaborate too on the types of wallets, right? there's various types of wallets. And then not to confuse, like you're also not in exchange, correct? Do you swap coins in and out of Vault12?
No, we're strictly
Oh,
a security
security.
solution where we're saving a very particular asset that represents your security.
And so, yeah, let's continue down that path. I mean, you mentioned it already, and we're not talking about securities, folks, in terms of investment vehicles and instruments and all that. We're talking about actual security, hacks, privacy, protection. So let's talk about kind of that evolution. And you touched on it a little bit,
Sure.
and we can go back as early as you want. But in terms of, for those that are looking to, that have wallets, that are managing their own seed phrases and keys and all that, what do you guys do to kind of help them out?
So maybe before we get to wallets, there's actually a first step that most people that are new to cryptocurrency kind of, they jump into crypto via Coinbase or Binance. And so these are organizations that provide exchanges where you can buy cryptocurrency, you can sell your cryptocurrency. And you can also, many people kind of leave their cryptocurrency up in the exchange. And so this is a very convenient way to do things, right? It's kind of very similar to just buying stock on Robinhood or, with your bank. However, it is incredibly unsafe to do this. And while Gemini and Coinbase and Binance, have done an amazing job of security, everyone else has been hacked. And to give you an idea of the magnitude of hacks, it's something like 11 billion in the last 10 years, right? It was over 3 billion last year. Same thing the year before. So, criminals, hackers realize, oh, there's all this money stored up in this one place on this, this single, owned by this single corporation. Let's just go there. Let's not go after people. So the antidote to that is don't trust the exchange, download your cryptocurrency into a wallet. So now we get to, well, what's a wallet? So a wallet is often a piece of software that's running on a mobile device, or it could be running on your laptop, or indeed it could be it could actually be a hardware wallet, which is something very similar to a USB drive that you plug in, and you download your cryptocurrency and your keys, etc., onto that hardware device, and then you keep it completely offline, and so it never touches the internet. So it's a very safe way of doing things. In fact, many people will take that hardware wallet and put it in a safety deposit box, and put that away so that it's not even kind of lying around the house. In addition to saving your details into a wallet, the other sort of way in which people lose their seed phrase is literally through accidents. You wrote it down on a piece of paper. 9 out of 10 wallets will tell you to write your seed phrase down on a piece of paper, even to this day in 2021, after billions of dollars of crypto have been stolen. Well, paper it's not great. I mean,
Not at all.
You sometimes you can't read it, sometimes you can't find it. I'm sure it doesn't age very well. I'm sure you're familiar with the Winklevoss brothers. So they're the co-founders of Gemini. And what they did when, they had an awfully large amount of Bitcoin. And so what they did, because they were paranoid about the security, was they printed out their private keys, cut them into pieces, and then distributed the pieces amongst different safety deposit boxes around the country. And they literally went to regional banks that were 30 minutes from an airport, and they did all of this in 48 hours. Well, that's great. It's very secure. And then I think they broke the computers down with a sledgehammer and then buried them in the concrete of the building that they're in. So very, very safe.
I didn't know this. I didn't know this.
Yeah. It's if you want to read about it, it's all chronicled in Ben Mesrick's book, Bitcoin Billionaires. I recommend it. He's the author of that book, and he wrote the book that got turned into the social network. So it's hilarious. But you think of the pandemic, right? We just went through a pandemic, and you suddenly realize that, well, stuff in a safety deposit box was not really accessible. It's not accessible, in normal times, let alone at a point where physical centralized.
I used to work at the bank, and it's 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, depending on where your bank is, 9 to 6. And you got to get there before. And it's kind of interesting. You go from a decentralization aspect of managing your keys to like going back to a central, going back to a bank. Anyway, didn't mean to cut you off.
So no problem. So okay, so let's talk about Vault12. So what Vault12 does is it removes the need to keep stuff in a cloud. And it removes the idea that you have something, that you're carrying around on a keychain or that's, lying around in your house. And it uses this notion of taking a digital asset, putting it in a vault, just like you would with a safety deposit box. But in this case, it's a digital vault and it's on your phone. And when you put assets into the vault, they get encrypted and then they get split into pieces that are unrecognizable pieces. And you assign what we call guardians. Guardians are either friends and family, your lawyer, your wealth manager, like people that you trust, that on site, their voice, they're not random people you met on the internet at a meetup. They're people that and you assign them, and just like you have Facebook friends, there's this social aspect of using a social network or an inner circle to guard your vault. And so they get the pieces. And then obviously to make it convenient, if you need the asset back, so you need to check your MetaMask, seed phrase, you don't need all 10 pieces. You just need 5 out of 10 or 3 out of 10 or 10 out of 20, like whatever you specify as the parameters. And so that makes it much more convenient. And so this is a much more powerful way because now the app runs on an Android device or an iPhone. It's not actually on the phone. So there's nothing on the device.
Wow.
Yeah. And so you can lose the phone, or if you upgrade your phone, all you do is reconstruct the asset, reconstruct the vault by sending a request to your guardians. And if you fall out with them, you can replace them.
Yeah.
If you don't know anyone or you're really kind of antisocial, you can use other devices. So I have like three, like I have an Android phone and 2 old iPhones that I have lying around and an iPad mini. And that's what I've configured as my guardians. And I control them. I can put them in my safe. And that way I have access to them all the time. And so it makes it very easy.
And so it's just the keys.
So what you're putting in the vault is literally the seed phrase, or you could paste in the private key.
Yeah.
It's up to you. And we make it very easy for you to enter that in many, many different ways, but you can type in the words. You can just type it into a note, or if you are being, a lot of people remember that it's very good to have layers of security. Yeah. So you might take your seed phrase, bunch of words, encrypt them, using some other technique, and then record those and put those in the vault. You just have to remember that. I have to reverse it when I'm typing it in. But so there's many, many ways to kind of do that. And then we realized that there was this other hole, which was when you're passing assets on to the future, to your kids, or in case of being incapacitated, which was definitely on people's minds last year. There's not an easy way to do it. I mean, basically, you need an inventory of all your assets. That's what the lawyers are gonna, want, which means you have to write it down. And then you have to keep it up to date. So every time you buy that hot NFT or you buy that hot DeFi, token, you have to, and you put it somewhere else, you have to document it. Yeah. So now, you're documenting things on paper. It's not great. It's complicated, messy, and, So what we said was just start, designate one of the guardians to be your beneficiary, and they have the ability to say, give me access to the vault. And we put in some fail safes so that they don't do it while you're still, while it's still unauthorized or whatever. But essentially they get access to the assets.
It's crazy. So what has happened from 2014 until 2021 with Vault12? Kind of the roadmap, because This was so early on, right? Like, I mean, people are still trying to understand it. Crypto's not even known to most of, population. So what has happened over I guess the last 5 or 6 years? How long have you been with the team?
I joined in 2018 and led the funding round.
So what's kind of been the journey in terms of, because the vision was there. And I think about this all the time, like the keys, just, how critical it is. How are we going to reach the next billion people? But before we get into like the importance of this solution, which is so important, what's been the journey with Vault12 to get where they are now? Because 2014 kicks it off. This thing's brand new. And then you guys were already kind of, you weren't part of the team yet, but obviously you probably understand the history. What's been the journey like to get to this point to make this happen? Technically, or business developmentally, and then I even want to get into the raise, in 2018 of like, what were those discussions like? Oh, this makes sense. Were people like, you're crazy, we don't believe in blockchain, some of the challenges there. But first, I want to get into the roadmap of Vault12 and like the evolution to provide this solution here in 2021.
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2014, when the company was started, definitely a strong vision, which we have this year delivered on completely.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. And so that whole idea of you're still on mute, but I'm going to carry on. So so a lot of the work in the first few years was, the kind of the technical foundation. So we had to create a mechanism to encrypt, and instead of creating our own cryptography from scratch, we used some cryptography from the 70s by a guy called Adi Shamir, who is probably the world's most prolific, one of the world's most prolific cryptographers. His technology, his ideas are everywhere. And I'd worked with some of his innovations before. So this was one of the reasons I joined. And so we used this technology called Shamir's secret sharing, which is all about encrypting something and splitting it into pieces, and then being able to recombine to get the asset back. So that was one part of it. The other part of it was there needs to be a storage mechanism on people's phones to accept this shard, this piece, this encrypted piece, and that storage needs to be super secure. Well, along with what we did, Apple created the secure enclave on the phone in those years, and so suddenly we had a wonderful rock solid security solution, which has now has been put onto Android and other devices. And then the most important piece was, well, okay, great. So I put it in the vault, it encrypted it, it broke it into 10 pieces. Now I've got to get those pieces to the Guardians. And we're not going to use we don't want to use the public internet to do that, or any place where you can discover what that is. And so we created a relay network to transfer those pieces to the devices that are going to be guarding the individual shards. And so we actually open sourced that. So we did that in an open source way. And what that means is you can use our default relay network, or you can configure your own. So if you're super paranoid, you can create your own network of nodes around the world. And we give you the software, and then you run it privately. And that way your assets, or those pieces of those assets, never touch the public internet. So there was quite a lot of foundational work to do things in the right way, so that we could build the crypto solution for the cryptocurrency, and someone else could build the solution for real estate, and someone else could build the solution for other things in the future. So there was a big vision of how these things are gonna, how security is gonna change over the years. I don't know about you, but my car, I can turn it on with a phone. So there's a key going back and forth. There's some cryptography happening. My apartment has a smart lock. They don't give me the keys necessarily, but that is the technology underneath. So you can imagine in 5 years, they'll probably give me a stack of keys, digital keys, and say, you know, these are your keys to control different aspects of your home, your apartment, etc. Well,
let's get into that. Let's get into some of those use cases real quick, or the applications, or how you guys foresee that, which you're already diving into. And the reason why I asked the question before I rudely muted myself, the journey, right? Like, people right now are if you're in the bubble, you understand these things are getting built, solutions, research, R&D, all the above. And you would think this solution would have been created like a long time ago. But for everybody tuning in, right, whether they're coming into the space or whatever the background is, I mean, there's a lot of work for Vault12 to operate. There was, 6-7 years, right? Plus, experience past that to kind of envision this. And then not only that, you need to build it. And so moving forward, it's the UI UX that people complain about, even in the DeFi space. Like, it's kind of crazy, right? It's complicated, clunky, cumbersome. This whole key thing that you got to manage your own keys. And that's why people use other solutions. And it's a little bit easier because, well, that's what we're used to. We give up our passwords, we give up our, social security numbers now just to, get your discount down the block. But that was kind of my main point of that question. It was ultimately all the work that goes into this stuff. And it's not just, on the user end side, it's super seamless and perfect. On the back end, it took, X amount of years to kind of deliver this thing, and you guys are still working at it. So, and now you're getting into kind of some other applications, various keys. How else can Vault12 be used for?
So today, we've shipped the product 2 years ago in 2019, actually right before the pandemic. So now you can store not only your seed phrase, your private key, you could store other types of digital data. So a document, a video, sound file, you name it. So it doesn't, wow. It can be used in a very general purpose way. And so now what we're doing is refining the UI or the user experience to speak to new people that are coming on board, who just know one thing and they just want to see the button that says save seed phrase. But there are even the application today can support many other use cases, and so one of them is NFTs. So an NFT, which I know we're going to get into, but an NFT is another type of application that has become very, very exciting on the blockchain, but it uses all of those underlying mechanisms for security. So an NFT is a record of let's just stick with art for the moment, but it's a record of that piece of art, and it lives on it's registered on the blockchain. And you get it by going to not an exchange, but you go to an NFT platform like Nifty Gateway or OpenSea. There's a whole bunch of them, and these platforms are centralized, in the same way that an exchange is centralized, right? So you go up there, you upload your artwork, it creates the registry entry in the blockchain, but ultimately it's going to get stored in a wallet. And the wallet might be on the platform, or it might be your MetaMask wallet or your Rainbow wallet or Trust wallet or whatever. And that wallet is protected with a seed phrase. So you do ultimately, the place where your NFT record is ending up is secured by a seed phrase. And so Vault12 is perfect to kind of secure that. But with NFT art, or music or whatever it happens to be, you have the actual piece of art as well. And so you can actually drag and drop that right into the application. So if you're the creator, you can drag that into a vault as well. And it will also get encrypted and split up, and then it'll disappear off your device, so no one can rob you. And when you need it, you can recall it. And so that's kind of another example.
And I think that's important, and that's kind of the theme of this conference, really, is NFTs and the different verticals, the different sectors, right? That NFTs are touching, from real estate to athletes to
finance,
music, all the above. So we were talking about, so it's important for everybody watching, right? Check out Vault12. You're going to need it. How were those investor discussions back in 2018? Were they like, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense? I'm assuming, I mean, I would think this would be an slam dunk. Everybody should have been dumping money.
So we did a very small angel list round in 2014
Yeah.
that was like 1.4 million, and we got some very interesting people to invest at that time. So people like the Winklevoss twins invested, Naval Ravikant invested, and a few other well-known people.
Yeah.
I mean, there weren't that many in 2014.
No.
It was just a handful. So they had seen the project and just put a little bit of money in. So when we came around to 2018, we actually had an alpha version of the product. So we had a white paper, but we actually had a running demo video of the actual app.
For those there was this crash in 2017 where people just had the white paper and no product solution, no development. So
there's still many projects with no product. So
you're totally right, and your guys' team was the opposite, which is the way to go, is to have a product solution and operating.
Right. So our raise, I mean, I did all the calculations of how much is it going to cost to market this, and I came up with this number. It was something like $250,000 just to run an ICO.
Yeah.
And we didn't need to. And so we probably did the last ICO of 2018, but it was the first STO. So we're very early doing it in a very, very compliant and rigorous way, because the SEC was walking around saying, we don't think that there's anything like, there's no such thing as a utility.
Yeah.
So they didn't follow up on that threat, but
that's good.
That is what they were saying. And so we did a security token offering. We were very, very careful about how those tokens were distributed, how we did almost zero marketing. But we had a good network built up. There was a good word of mouth, and we were able to raise a small amount of money, but enough money to kind of power the completion of the platform. And then we launched it a year later.
No, that's great. And the only reason why I asked that too is because, I've been having a lot of discussions recently, just in general, and just a lot of teams that are focusing on the infrastructure part, which is important, and everybody watching their stacks, and there's different parts, components to blockchain to make this thing work. And it's very difficult to, integrate and implement some of this stuff. And that's not going to fly for adoption, if people can't get on, get off, and save and be confident. And so, Vault12 is working on that, and some of these other teams are, and I've noticed that's what I'm seeing the trend, right? Is the next layer, extraction layer, so people don't have to worry about even if they're on blockchain or not, if their seed phrase is saved or not, is it decentralized enough, So it's kind of cool to kind of see the evolution. And again, you guys were at the beginning, and here we are in 2021. And we've been talking about really like the consumer side. Is this solution also for institutions, enterprises, some of the other bigger players?
That's definitely on our roadmap to make it use. So right now individuals can use it, and they can be professionals, but it is designed as, one person owns the vault, and then they're putting assets in there, and then they're putting them out to other people. But in the future, we would have kind of a scenario where, let's say you're running a family office, so you're managing the family office, so it's not your money, it's not your assets, but you're putting assets from, or maybe it's a multi-family office, so you're putting assets from multiple places. So there needs to be some different types of administration, delegated administration, etc. So it needs to be a security framework that kind of makes sense to ordinary people that are in those industries. So that's something that's something to come in the future.
Yeah. So I guess what you see is, and it makes total sense, like, it's very difficult now to save the way that what you've built makes sense to split this up amongst, trusted individuals or entities to manage certain things. You think this will hold our COVID vaccine card?
Yeah, why not? I think one of the use cases, because there were stories circulating last year about essential medical data, like research data, that was being researchers were being arrested as they tried to leave various countries. And so this is a mechanism to store it in the vault. It disappears. You delete the app off your phone, you leave the country, and then when you get to your destination, you reconstitute everything. So yeah, it does have a role to play in some of those
everyday
call it
life.
global collaboration. And there's some other human rights scenarios as well in a similar fashion.
And I asked that kind of lightly, right? Because it's just interesting. Some of our personal information, our social security card is not saved. Our birth certificates are not saved. Everybody has it probably somewhere in a drawer. Everybody's losing their vaccine cards, which is kind of important. You need to show that when you go to like a basketball game now. So it's just interesting, the direction that we're going to take and the advancements that you guys have taken to provide a service that we're all going to need and not have to worry about, losing it, misplacing it, getting burned, the ink running, like whatever the case may be. Now, are you guys running like an educational initiative as well? I think at the beginning you were talking about education and teaching. Are you guys involved in like educational stuff?
So we decided, as we rolled out the solution, that there was just a huge spectrum of knowledge about security. Like some people knew nothing at all about what they needed to do, and others knew other things. If you looked on the internet, you'd find everything from code on GitHub that you compile to incomplete articles and summaries of other people's articles, and you really didn't know what was legitimately a comprehensive way to do security or not. And in the crypto world, the information on the internet, you really have to double, triple, quadruple check it. So we actually put up a site which is all about security and securing cryptocurrency, NFTs, even your BitClout account, which uses a seed phrase. And the website is securemycrypto.org and securemycrypto.org. And we use that URL because we wanted we're going to have collaborators in the future that are contributing content to that. And so it has all of the basics of security. What's a seed phrase? What's a wallet? What's BIP39? Because that comes up. Why you shouldn't use paper. But it also has how to create a seed phrase by rolling a 20-sided dice, which is important if you have $10 million worth of Bitcoin and you need to do things offline, because computers can't generate random numbers randomly. So and then we explain why the random number thing is a problem. So it's a resource for people to, and we also put in, every vendor of a wallet has a beautiful tutorial, but they're really focused on getting you from A to Z to start buying and selling cryptocurrency so they make money. So we wrote tutorials for the top. We published the top 10, but we have the top 20 in the works. And we did it from a security perspective. So we told you, at this point, you actually have 5 different options. You can back up your seed phrase by getting it engraved on a steel plate, or, you can back it up in this way. Or if you're going to put it on Dropbox, do it this way, so that at least you're not, doing something really, that's going to cause you trouble in the future. So the site is neutral, but it obviously has, this is how you'd use Vault12.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think education is critical, especially right now with, blockchain, crypto, touches various parts of our lives and like different use cases and applications. But in the end, especially if you're managing your own keys and your own seed phrases, like, I mean, it's, you'll lose everything really if you don't. We just actually saved somebody's seed phrase last weekend. Emergency call, we had to help them out and it was successful, thank God. But it was funny because the hacker at the same time was like talking to the person, and it was just in real time. And people underestimate these teams, these people in the world that can quickly access all of our information. And so I think it's an important thing to note here on the education front to understand what we're doing, why certain businesses operate with centralization, decentralization, and understanding that. So what's your take on Bitcoin then? Like we've talked about managing the security aspects of crypto. What's your take on crypto? I mean, obviously it's very important, to a lot of people's lives. How do you see Bitcoin how do you see Bitcoin and kind of crypto from a holistic view? Like, is it financial freedom? Is it good for the world? Global reserve? Like, how do you see it?
Oh, I think it's a marvelous thing. Unlike the financial system, and in particular the way that the US implemented the financial system, no one's going to be denied a loan because they're too black.
Yep.
Right. This idea of redlining, that we're only, many of us are just learning about it, that this has been going on for, years.
Yeah.
None of that exists in the cryptocurrency market. Anyone can buy Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, and you don't have to buy a whole one, right? Like, I think this is a big deal that needs to get across, is you don't need to buy a whole Bitcoin for $55,000. You can buy a portion, and so anyone can get into it. And I think that is one of the most equalizing aspects that the media hasn't picked up on. Politicians haven't picked up on it. This is an equalizing technology. I think Bitcoin is great. I think we'll see it as a store of value. So I'm very excited about that. I tell all my friends to open Gemini account, buy Bitcoin every 2 weeks, just a little bit, and put it in an earn account, so you get 3% interest on it. Now you can get way more interest, right? If you do you do all the pieces yourself using DeFi technology.
Not really. There are options. You're totally right. If you want to farm and yield farming and all this crazy stuff and borrowing, but
you have to give up your day job to do that.
Yes, yeah. And you're right. There's these other companies that provide interest, and all you got to do is drop it in. Like, it's pretty seamless. I put my parents on it. I have some family members on it. But you're right. Like, you can earn that way, staying away from the complexities and the risk of like these other strategies and opportunities. Just, you're right, in stable coins, right? Like, being able to put that in a true savings account and earn 6, 7, 8%, right? I mean, that's gravy. Like, banks are offering, I don't know, 5 basis points.
Like point something. And then I'm very excited about Ethereum, because this has the programmable component, and this is the thing that's kind of making DeFi work.
Yeah.
So right now DeFi is pretty focused on, well, we had loans and we had interest and we had, derivatives. Let's recreate them. But I think that we're going to start to see brand new things that don't exist. And an example of that is actually NFTs, to bring the conversation back around to NFTs. This idea that a creator, an artist, can sell a piece of art and program that art so that they get 10% every time it's sold on into the future. Well, eBay doesn't work that way. No. Christie's doesn't work that way. The artist gets nothing other than the one-time transaction, and often they're not getting the true, value of that art at that moment in time. And so this is something that hasn't existed, and so that is, I think, an example of the marvel of the blockchain.
Yeah, the innovation aspects of it, this residual income in perpetuity, right? Like, it makes total sense. And I think, blockchain allows that to happen. Crypto allows that to happen. So it seems like, obviously, you're bullish. I'm bullish in a lot of these aspects, just at a high level, owning your own stuff. And like you said, even in the crypto world, if you manage some Bitcoin or some crypto, like you said, you don't have to actually apply for a loan. Like, it provides you're offering collateral, and that's the way it kind of should be a little bit. Just,
well, there's no person saying, oh, you don't fit the profile.
Yep.
No. So I think that's great. We're living in a world, or a century, of lack of trust. Who trusts politicians anymore? No one. Who trusts institutions? Because last year the institutions didn't have the facts, and they told us all kinds of things. And who trusts the media? You don't get the real facts from the media either. Maybe because they don't understand, or maybe because they just want to get clicks.
Exactly.
So we've lost trust in all those institutions, all of those entities that have been there for many, many years. And so this decentralization and Bitcoin and Ethereum, these types of applications give us a way to take control of our own destiny.
Yeah, no, perfect. I totally agree. Like the trust factor is really big, and everybody has seen it. It's just kind of gone polarizing. So hopefully this kind of brings it back. And not even like, I don't even think blockchain is going to save the world or crypto, but it gives us an alternative, right? Like we're going to have options now. We can do this, we can do that. We can live in both worlds, hybrid, whatever you like. Maybe you live in the traditional world for your everyday kind of spending, and then you're in crypto world for X, Y, and Z, especially with what Vault12 is providing. Like you can save a lot of, different types of data, documents, blah, blah, blah. So it's been great. So I think we're coming up on our time here. Great discussion. We talked about your past, your way into blockchain. We talked about Vault12. We talked about kind of the importance of the solution, that you guys are providing. And not only that, what crypto's impact is going to be in a variety of ways: Bitcoin, crypto, Ethereum, NFTs. Where can people learn more about Vault12, or where should they reach out to kind of get some more information?
Yeah, so we have a website, vault12.com. The app is downloadable on the iOS App Store and the Android App Store. So just go to vault12.com/download. And then for the security information, if you want to kind of see where you might have gaps, go to securemycrypto.org.
Perfect. Well, to wrap it up, folks, it's been a good conversation. Very appreciative of you taking time out of your day to join us, talk with us. Really insightful, really critical, really important, really knowledgeable, and kind of for everybody watching, really look into this, because you're going to need this if you're going to get involved. So for all of you tuning in, we hope you enjoyed the conversation today, and we'll see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.